Hi, for this demonstration, I'm going to show you how to blend paint. I'm choosing a very simple subject matter so that you can see it boldly. I do not want you to paint this painting. I want you to do one that's on your own and your own idea. But what I did is I chose a close-up of a flower, okay, to kind of keep in mind with Georgia O'Keeffe. What I did on my palette is I put some white, blue, red. I mixed a little of violet, a little bit of pink and light blue with my white, and I wiped off my brush, and now I'm ready to begin. I'm going to start with this petal over here so that you can see it a little bit better. One thing about that particular petal is that it is underneath the other petals. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply my paint up to the edges of my pencil line because I first drew not a lot of detailed shapes. I kept my shapes really basic and I paint in the edge. How do I stay in the lines? One way to stay in the lines is by using the tip of your brush, and watch how I wiggle it a little bit and see how I'm using only my fingers and I'm wiggling that to create that straight line. Another way is the drop and drag technique. You can drop your paintbrush down and drag it along the edge to create a nice edge. And so because this petal is under the other petal, it is always darkest where it has a shadow cast from the other petals. And so now I'm going to go in with a lighter color. And so you can see right next to my deeper purple, I'm going to put a lighter blue purple. So can you see those two colors are there? I'm kind of being dramatic about it so that you can totally see that effect. But if you leave it like that, it's not going to be a gradient. And what we're going to try to do in these videos, and your first assignment, is to create gradients and to be able to blend. Because once you know how to blend, then we can talk about those other techniques. Keep in mind, paint dries fast. So if you leave it like this and go have lunch and come back, it's going to dry like this. And we don't want it to be like that. So I'm wiping my brush, and then just in little strokes, wiping my brush in between, I'm going to create a new color that's a combination of the dark color and that lighter color. The trick is to wipe your brush in between the creating of the gradients. And so that the color is creating the paint is creating a new color on your canvas. You not only mixed paints on your palette, but you mix paints on your canvas. And by using little tiny brush strokes, dabby brush strokes, and wiping your brush in between, you're going to be able to create a gradient by mixing the new colors on your actual painting. And notice how I'm flipping my wrist a little bit and I'm creating some new colors. So I'm going to put some more light down here so that you can see it again, that I'm applying a good amount of light paint, but I don't want that really awful stripe there. And so I'm going to start to add a little bit of deep tones to my brush. So my brush has the deeper tones, and I'm going to add the deeper tones to these lighter tones directly on my canvas. And I'm going to start to feather it or blend it in. See how I'm creating that mid-tone? And I don't use a lot of water. I'm not washing my brush at this point. I'm just letting the paint mix on the canvas. And so it does get a little bit lighter, but what I'm doing is creating a gradient. And what I want is my paint to slowly fade from that purple color to that pink color. Now, this is a base tone. You might want to go back later on with some deeper tones and start to maybe add some creases or add some things to your painting, you know what I mean, to make it more interesting. But for the most part, I want you to practice in each area of your macro photography in your close-up view. I want to see if you can create these beautiful gradients without having a huge stripe. We don't want your colors to go dark stripe, medium stripe, light. We want it to be a slow gradient from dark to light. And the way to achieve that is by placing down your colors, is by wiping your brush in between, and by blending actually on the canvas. You're blending on the canvas to create those gradients. And now I can go and start to create a lighter color here and see how that first petal appears like it's on top of my purple petal, my second petal, because of the overlapping. And so I can keep on going and blending and creating gradients as my base tone. And then you can go back with smaller brushes and begin to add some additional color variation. Notice how my brush strokes are all going in the direction of the petal. I'm not going in a big variety of ways, and I'm keeping my edges very crisp. You want to cover every square inch of the canvas, and you don't want to have a white halo around your painting. You want to make sure that you are really covering the entire surface. And so you can see that I'm starting to blend on my painting. If it does get a little dry or hard to blend, you can wet your brush, but I don't usually do that too much. And you can see how I'm beginning to create these gradients. And now I want you to practice doing some of that by making big shapes on your canvas and filling the page with whatever image is your macro photography. So I want it to cover from edge to edge to fill the page. Don't put tiny little details right now because you're just going to paint over it. Really think about underpainting and applying the paint in layers. And I have some finished ones to show you by students just your age to give you an idea of what some different students have done with natural objects. So think about your subject, practice blending in the larger areas. And if it doesn't come out good, that's okay. We can just paint over it because acrylic dries very, very quickly. Make sure you wipe your brushes and that you blend on the canvas so that you can create those beautiful gradients. Enjoy.